In this video, we're going to learn how to delete a node in linked list. So there can be two types that can made up. The first one in which you have head is given, and the second type in which head is not given. So mostly any type of question that comes up in deleting a node in a linked list, you probably will be having access to the head. But in some rare cases, you will not be having any kind of access to any head of any linked list. So in this kind of case, we will be using a makeshift method. And the firstly, we're going to see that what actually happens when head is given. So how are you going to delete a node when the head is given? So let's see that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do here, we're going to make up a linked list. So we're going to make up a linked list. Let's say you have 2 into this, then you have 3, then you have 4, 5, 6, and no. So if in the question it's given that you have the access to the head, then how are you going to delete a node here? So let's say you want to delete this 5th node. This is the node you want to delete. So let's mark it as delete this node. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to traverse, you're going to take up a pointer first. You're going to take up a pointer. Let's say you take a temp pointer. You're going to traverse the pointer till here, just before the node you want to delete. So you're going to traverse the temp till here, and after that you will going to connect this node to this node here, the 6th node. So you're going to connect this 4th node to the 6th node simply, and after that this 5th node you can delete. Like you can just simply write delete this 5th node. So that's how we're gonna do that. So let's see how in the code we're gonna write this. So you're traversing this temp just before this linked list, just before the node you want to delete. So how are you gonna do that? So we're gonna use a while loop here. So in the while loop we're gonna write that until this temp, until the temp's next is not equals to the node we want to delete. So let's say we can say it as delete. So this, just assume this thing that this delete is actually a pointer here, which is pointing to the node we want to delete, and simply we're going to run our while loop until the temp's next reaches the delete. So we're simply going to write inside of this while loop that if this thing happens, like firstly you need to traverse. So we assume this thing that this delete is our pointer pointing to the node which we want to delete. So we're gonna write inside of this while loop temp equals to temps next. So slowly we're gonna traverse this temp. Like at first it's going to be here, the temp is here right now. Okay, so the temp is here right now, then after that temps equals to temps next. The temp will gonna come here, so you can simply put the temp here. Then in the 3rd traversal this temp will gonna come here on the 4th, and now as soon as the temp will gonna come here, it will gonna find out this thing. It will gonna check the condition that temps next, this is the temp, temps next is actually delete. So this became false. Temps next is actually equals to this delete here. So now the while loop will not gonna run, and in here we simply got, after when the while loop will gonna end, we got that temp next is equals to delete. So we're just able to find out this delete node. Now what we're gonna do here after this, we can simply say that temps next is equals to this deletes next. So what does this actually mean? So like temps next is this, right? This is the temp and this is the temps next, and after that this is the temps next. So this is like deletes next. So 6 here is the next of delete, and this delete is the next of this temp. So we want to connect this temp to this 6. So we can simply write that temps next is actually equals to the delete next. So we're just gonna do it. So delete next is this, and we're gonna make this deletes next as the temps next. So this node will gonna get removed, this, and you can simply make up an error pointing to 6. So if you want to delete this from the memory, you can simply write delete delete. So that's how we're going to delete the node. Okay, so you cannot actually take delete as a pointer name, because in C++ we already have a function which deletes a node. Like we write delete temp, so it deletes the temp node. Okay, so we cannot actually take delete, so you can take del is a pointer. So if del is the pointer, then you can simply write here to delete the node from the memory. So you need to delete the node from memory. It's totally, on LeetCode type questions, it's totally optional to do this, but you should really do it. It's a good practice to delete things from the memory. So you can write delete del. It will gonna delete it permanently. Then you can return the head. It will gonna return the new list with the deleted node. Okay, so that's how we delete when we know where's the head is. Like when we know the head of a linked list, you can simply traverse to that, just traverse to just before the node we want to delete, and after that you can connect that node to the front node of that delete node. Okay, that's how you do it. What if this delete node would be the last node? How are you going to do that? Simple case. That would also going to be our simple case. So this is going to be our delete then, because we want to delete this last node also. So how are you going to do that? So times next is the node we want to delete, and deletes next is null. So you can simply connect the temps next to the deletes next. You can do this. You can do this thing. You can simply do this thing here also. There's no problem with that. It will gonna work for this edge case also. Okay, like this one is pretty easy to do and pretty easy to think, but the question that we actually wants to do is not this. Okay, let's make up a linked list again. So let's say you have 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and it point to no. Okay. So in this particular case, you don't actually have given anything about the linked list except the node you want to delete. For example, in the question, they will only gonna give you, like for example, like void delete node list node star node. And so in the questions like on LeetCode, they will only gonna give you the node that you want to delete. Okay, so in here they have gave us this node right here. Okay, this is the node we want to delete, but they haven't provided head here. There's no head, just the node you want to delete. So how are you gonna do that? Okay, so let's see that also. Like if we don't have access to the first node of the linked list, then how are we gonna delete the node? Because we know this thing that if when we were having the head, we were just traversing here, here, and then here, and we were simply connecting this node to the next of the node we want to delete. So this node here actually gets removed automatically when you connect this to this, right? But in this case, we cannot traverse to this. Like for example, if you want to delete this node, you cannot traverse from here to here because you don't know from where the linked list is starting. And this is the most tricky part. You don't know where the linked list is actually starting from. Okay. In this particular case, we cannot actually delete the node. We cannot, like if I said this thing that you want to delete this node, right? You cannot delete this node from the memory, but you can delete this node in a makeshift kind of a way. How you do that? What if I do something that I will replace the data of this with the data of the front node? For example, the 5 is here. So if I remove the 5, and I will just put the value of the front node inside of it. And what if I remove this front node and simply make it null? So you can see our node, that fifth node, that node which was containing 5 is actually deleted. In reality, it's not actually deleted, but we just made it deleted. So that's how the question actually you have to do. Okay. There is no option to actually delete that current node by any means because head is not given. So when the head is not given, this is the only way where you can actually delete the node. Okay, so let's take up a long linked list and let's see how we're gonna do that. So let's start from 2, then 3, then you have 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, and then it's pointing to null. So let's say you want to delete the node which have 5 containing in it. So in the quotient they gave you that this is the node you want to delete, right? This is the node you want to delete. Now what you can do here, that you can replace the data of this node with this node. Just simply put the 6 here and delete this node instead and connect this with this. Okay, let's see what I'm actually saying. So I'm going to make up this linked list again by overriding the data. So what I would be doing here now, I will be writing this 6 data in this. So I'm going to override this 5 with 6. So I'm going to put here 6. And then this is going to be empty and 7 is here, right? I do know this thing that I do have access to this node because this is the node we wanted to delete, right? This is the node we wanted to delete. And now I can access any node after this because in a singly linked list I can move ahead but I cannot go backward. If there would be an option to go backward like in a doubly linked list, then definitely I can delete it actually. But at this moment I cannot actually delete it, so I have to override the data. That's what I did. So when I override the 6 into the node we want to delete, I do have access to this node because this is the next node of the delete node. I can delete this node instead. So you can simply do the same thing that you have. Let's say this is, so you can just simply connect this node to this node directly, and this node will automatically gonna get removed from here. Okay, so let's say this is our temp pointer is here and this is the next of this. So this is, let's say this is our current pointer. So you can simply make that temps next is actually equals to current. So you connected this node here, right? So let's see how we actually gonna do this. We see the whole code for this. So this node we're gonna get deleted. We can just do that. So you can just simply connect 6 to the 7, right? So we're gonna do this in a way that we actually gonna, so we, in the quotient we have given the node we want to delete, okay. Now what if I do one thing, that I take that node, the node that I want to delete, and I take the data. So I will take the nodes data, which is, this is the node I'm talking about, this is that node, you get simply, right? This is the node that is actually giving to us in the question. This is the node. So this node's data, if I need to make it equals to this node's data, how I'm gonna do that? So nodes data, I can simply write nodes data equals to nodes next data. Okay, so this is the node that I want to delete and this is the next of this node, right? So if I want this data to override here, I can simply say that replace the nodes data to the nodes next data. So this is the nodes next and this is having some data which will gonna come here because of this line. Okay, so you do understand this, right? After this, what you need to do is this data came here, so this data came here and now this node got empty. Okay, now you want to remove this node from here forever. For this you can do that. So this is the node. What if you make this nodes next to the next of this, next, so you can simply write, so this is the next of the node, this is the nodes next, and this is the next. So let's see, like firstly we write the code for it. So you're gonna write nodes next is equals to nodes next. And these are the only 2 lines you need to actually do this question. And believe it or not, this is actually a medium level stated question on LeetCode, and this all gets sorted out with these two lines. Okay. The tricky part here is this, that how you're gonna think to replace, how you're gonna think to delete the node when you don't know from where the node is starting. Okay. So that's how we're gonna think for this. So you do understood this line, right? That nodes next is equals to nodes next next. In the question we have given this node and this is the nodes next. Okay. If this is the nodes next, this is the nodes next next. So what if I connect the nodes next, like this is the nodes next. I'm simply connecting this arrow to this, which is the nodes next next. Hopefully it's clear. Okay. So if you really want to delete this node from the memory, then you simply can write one line over here. You can just simply take up a pointer, a new pointer, let's say temp pointer, and point this temp to the nodes next. So nodes next is this, the empty one. Okay. And after doing these two things, you can simply delete the temp. So because of this line, our temp became this, so this became our temp. And because of this line, our temp got deleted and it's gonna look something like this, right? This is actually the whole code for this. So what if like in the question, this thing is also given that the node that you want to delete here when the head is not given is not the last node. That means in the question they had stated this thing that the node that is given is not the last node. Otherwise maybe it would have gonna create some problem. Okay. Otherwise this is the only thing. The node that you want to delete is not the last node. That is the only thing you have to keep in your mind. It can be the first node, okay, it can be the head, but it cannot be the last node. So let's see on LeetCode how we're going to implement this correctly. So this is that question, delete node in a linked list. So you can see this delete node in the linked list, and this is a medium level question. So they have stated this thing that you have not given the access to the first node of the head, and they have wrote one more line here that it is guaranteed that the given node is not the last node. As I told you that the given node is never going to be the last node. It's before the last node. It can be the first node. It can be any node except the last node. Okay. So let's see. So like the way in this example, this is 451 and this 5 we wanted to delete. So we just took this 1 here and we deleted the 1 instead. So you can see here that the node that we want to delete is given and no head is given. So basically we want to replace the data of this node with the data of the next node. So we're going to write here nodes well is equals to node next well. Then after that we're going to connect this node to the node after this node's next. So for example, if this is the node, and so we're going to replace this with here, and this became empty. So we're going to connect this 5 to this 9. So we're gonna do this by nodes next is equals to nodes next, because this 9 here is the next of the given node, right? After that, we want to delete this empty node also. So we can do that. Firstly going to take up a pointer, and this temp pointer will be pointing to the node next, because that's the data we took off. This 1 is the node's next, and this is empty now because 1 is taken by 5. And now we simply going to delete this temp from the memory, and as the function is void, so we don't have to return anything, it will automatically gonna get it. So we can see if it runs or not. So we can see our code is accepted, and as we can see here that the node 5 we wanted to delete, so we got 419. In here the node 1 we wanted to delete, We got 459. So let's see if it gets submitted. So our code got submitted. Okay. So hope you understood.